Tez effect out at Halas Hall today?
You were very bullish on Montez Sweat, Grote, yesterday.
Yeah.
Did that continue today, Chris Emma?
Ben Johnson jumped right to it, asked about Montez Sweat, who we're going to hear from later on this afternoon up at Halas Hall, about this is a guy who had a season beyond just the 10 sacks he logged, that he was excellent against the run, that he played to his assignment with that defense, and he was a guy who really set the tone for a defensive line that obviously we know more to be desired from that group. And you're going to hear Ben Johnson about his admiration for Montez Sweat. Here's Ben Johnson.
My appreciation grew even more, and I loved him during the season, but when you watch the self-scout after the year, I think this was a guy that played at a very high level. I talked to him yesterday about it. I would argue it was the best year of his career. Whether that showed up statistically or not, that's debatable, but his ability to play the run, play the pass, I thought he did a really nice job, and hopefully it's something that we can piggyback on and carry that momentum into this year.
Man, best year of his career. That blows me away a little bit, considering the season that he had when he first came to the Chicago Bears.
Respectfully, it was the season he was traded to the Bears.
It wasn't. I think it's funny Ben Johnson said that, and then later he's asked about Jalen Johnson and said, well, I didn't see him before last year. So he's kind of speaking, he's hyping his guy up a little bit.
He had to game plan for the both of them.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways. Yeah, you can't ignore what happened previous to last year. But it started slow for Sweat, and I remember we did shows on it. Where are you at in the one-on-ones, Montez Sweat? And then he kind of figured it out in the Dennis Allen defense eventually.
That was a very, very significant comment Ben Johnson made last year when he said we need to put him in a position to win more of his one-on-one battles. That is if I'm a player and I hear that about myself, I'm not happy.
But part of that, too, means creating openings with the rest of your defensive front. And I think that's been obviously such a key focus of this offseason. And they keep talking about we're going to win from within with this group. And they're serious about that. Talking about focusing on the little details, get better get off. We heard Javon Dexter say it's night and day now what they've done in terms of getting off the snap and being more explosive in that regard. And that's something they're really going for. But this has to be Montez Sweat leading the way for this group. There's no magical solution to fix this pass rush and upgrade it out there. Now, there's depth guys, and that's it. You're thinking about a couple years ago when it was a Yannick Ngakoue signed in August. Like, anybody out there still is out there for a reason at this point. So you want to improve this group from within, but it has to be Montez Sweat leading the way. And it's great to hear Ben Johnson hype his guy up and say this is the best season of his career. Do it again now. Lead the way for a group that everybody's kind of skeptical on, and rightfully so.
I know you say that, but Chris, if I'm planning against it, you still just draw the double team if you're Montez Sweat and then make the other guys beat you.
Exactly. And that's the weakness for this defensive front right now. That's where you're looking at Austin Booker and say, take that step this year. Be that guy. And I'm really bullish on Austin Booker because he was a guy who was just not healthy throughout the first part of last year. It's similar to what Colston Loveland was in terms of really getting settled into his assignment with this particular scheme and his role there. And once he was healthy and that knee settled in, he took off, and he was an impactful player throughout the rest of this season. And he was somebody they were leaning on. It. That's going to be a big difference maker for this defense. I think he could be that guy alongside Montez Sweat on each edge where you're talking about getting home a little bit more. And then you talk about the upgrades in the interior and a guy like a Neville Gallimore stepping in and hoping that Dexter takes that big jump final that we've been talking about forever. Like all these guys that you have, a healthy Grady Jarrett in the mix. You want this to work complementary with that defensive line. And you've got reason to believe it's going to be there. There's also plenty of reason to be skeptical, but it starts with Montez Sweat in my mind.
How are you feeling about Dio Dangbo and Shamar Turner after what we've seen and have heard now?
Yeah, it's funny. Just mention all those names. They didn't mention either of those guys, and kind of for a reason. Like whatever you get out of either of these guys right now, unfortunately, that's probably what you got to settle for when you're talking about two players coming off serious injuries at this point. And Shamar Turner just did not obviously have anything to really show for last season. He's going to be settling back in off this injury. It's good to see him taking those strides health-wise. You want to see him full go in training camp because he's a guy who plays with that motor, and he can apply that motor to be a really important piece for this defensive front. As for Dio Dangbo, I think all bets are off. You want to see what he can do getting back out to full health and see if he can be anywhere close to that player because a year ago, we were talking about him with the same curiosity. Can Dio be a key cog for this defense, or is this an overpay? And you still don't know what he is, and he's coming off the injury. So whatever you get out of him is great. And Ben Johnson, it kind of alluded to that. You're just kind of hoping you can squeeze whatever you can out of him in this year.
Now, if that's the case, that's not good because they did pay a ton of money for Dayo Odunze. They did pay him a 3-year contract expecting him to rush the passer. And I kind of feel the opposite. I think Shamar Turner cost you a draft pick. Yeah, it was a second rounder, but it's a more predictable injury in the ACL. I know a lot of people are skeptical as to whether or not you're 100% of yourself, but he's still young and malleable. I actually feel like with Dayo, I know we say, in baseball, it's just money. I feel the opposite when you're in a salary cap world in football. I feel like they gave him a lot of money. He's in the top 5 of cap hits next year, this season, whatever you want to call it, 2026. And so because of that, I can't be okay with I'll take what I can get. That is not the attitude they had when they signed him.
And you're right. And it shouldn't be the case. I'm just talking realistically in terms of I just don't know what he's going to be. I didn't know what he was when they signed him. I still don't know what he is now. They were bullish on him. They gave him a lot of money to be that guy and believe that based on what he did, despite the lack of production, that he could be an impactful piece. This is a direct reflection of Ryan Poles and what his vision is for this defense. And if we're sitting here mid-season talking about this pass rush finally has to find a way to get home, that falls on Poles because he was the one who committed to Dayo Odunze in this case. So you're right, Layla. It's a huge financial commitment that has just not bared any kind of fruit so far, and you want to see that change this year. But I just have a hard time saying this is somebody you're going to be able to count on this year.
Chris Emma, freshly back from Halas Hall, Emma of The Score. He'll be doing updates on WBBM a little bit later on. Good afternoon, Lisa. That'll be happening starting at about 3:16 today.
We love Lisa Fielding.
We do love Lisa Fielding. She's one of the greats, man.
She's
love Lisa.
She's like our entire station group main anchor.
I
and
like
a hell
that.
of a follow on TikTok.
I
She's
like that
editing
idea.
amazing videos out there, and I don't know that
really?
anybody's seeing. She's ridiculously good at video editing.
I didn't know she had TikTok yet.
Lisa
She's the
Fielding
best.
is on top of everything at all times.
Oh, man, I've been working with Lisa forever. We've done weekends together where she was the anchor and I was the sports guy. We've had many a laugh together. So, yes, I'm glad we could all agree that Lisa Fielding is awesome. You get to be with her later on today. Where was I going? Oh, yeah. I wanted to go to Odunze because last week all the fuss was legitimately Odunze saying that I have a new normal because of my foot. Has there been any follow-up to that with the head coach of the Bears?
Ben Johnson was asked today with follow-up about Odunze what he said. The term he used, that new normal, that's a concerning line when you're talking about a guy who's 24 years old and somebody you're really relying on. So Ben Johnson was asked about that. Do we have that cut, guys? He basically is trying to allude to the idea that this is somebody they're still believing in. He was the number 9 overall pick a couple of years ago and brought in to be that guy who elevates Caleb Williams with this team. And you're hoping he's still the case, especially after you part ways with DJ Moore this offseason and hope that you get that level. And they're hyping up Luther Burden. They're saying buy Luther Burden stock. That's wonderful to hear. But, man, Odunze is somebody you got to have. Here's Ben Johnson on the health of Odunze long term.
Rome told us his foot is healed, but it's a new normal, something he's going to have to work through. Do you have any concerns? Or are there things that you're going to have to maybe hold him back on? Or do you feel like he'll be the same guy that you thought he would be?
No, that's nothing new to me. He's out there. He says he feels great. He looks good to me. We go back and forth with the coaching staff, and he looks like the same old Rome. So I think we're in good shape.
I don't think Ben wants to hear it. I just don't think he cares. I don't think he's out. I see what I've got, and I like what I see right now in the practice field.
You know, we're learning still now going into year 2 with Ben Johnson to kind of dissect what he's trying to say. And you can understand. We heard him essentially light up Kyler Gordon last week saying he has to be available. This is somebody they're counting on, that you don't know what he is until he's healthy. And I asked him about Jalen Johnson last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, and he said, we need to see him out there. Like, he'll hype guys up when it's deserved, when he truly believes it. And he's not the kind of guy who's going to blow smoke about players. He's going to tell you really how he feels. And you got to read between the lines sometimes. But I don't think he's bothered by this. That's my dissecting what Ben Johnson said. I think they feel comfortable about it. He's been out there. If he was missing time right now, I'd say, man, the red flags are there. And you're really concerned about it long term. It was an online new normal. It concerns you. It sparks those red flags. But I think he's going to be okay in the long run. It's more about the performance side now. You want to see him take that jump this year and be that number one receiver they're counting on. And you want to be there sometime in October, November saying, is it Luther Burden or Rome Odunze? Who's the one with this group? You want to see them both getting the ball, along with Colson Loveland and everybody else in this mix, and saying you've got a really healthy dynamic there. But for now, you got to have those guys step up.
I think you're also seeing a pattern emerge when it comes to injury management of players and how Ben Johnson talks about them. You know, Jalen Johnson being out there is good for him. It's good for us. We know that. But I just wonder is he... The conversation surrounding Kyler Gordon, I look at that whenever I hear about other players, you know, like whether it's Rome Odunze in this moment or whether it's Jalen Johnson. I wonder how much of it is related to Ben Johnson wanting to get more out of Kyler Gordon. And then it's like, well, how seriously do you take the injury? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's an answer there that I'm missing when it comes to some of this stuff, or an implication that I'm missing.
I think they're just incredibly frustrated with Kyler Gordon to this point. This is a guy who got hurt warming up last season before a game at Lambeau Field. If that doesn't set you off as a head coach and you put in all these plans for him, then I don't know what does. And to have him out there again this offseason and he has another setback, you start making plans without this guy at this point. As much as you're paying him, as great as he is when he's out there, availability is the best ability. You hear that all the time from coaches, and he's just never been consistently available. So I just don't see them penciling this guy in as somebody who's going to play 17 games or even 7 games at this point. You want to get whatever you can out of it. And the same way we just talked about Dayo Dangbo. Whatever you get out of Kyler Gordon is great, but I don't think they're committing to him being a key piece of this defense until he can show otherwise.
I hate the idea that they're not counting on Kyler Gordon. I mean, that sucks because he's so good.
But did you get that impression? That maybe there are some, I believe, for example, Rome Odunze pushed himself too far. It injured him more. But he was trying. Does that look better to Ben Johnson than a guy who's getting injured like Kyler Gordon does, where he stops? That's the question. There's a fine line here with injury management.
Right. And was Kyler Gordon, and I don't know the answer to this, was Kyler Gordon not taking care of himself properly? Was he not following through with things? Was he not being, forthright with the doctor on what was going on? It does seem like there's a good mad going on.
And look, guys there are serious injuries, torn ACL, torn Achilles, things you just can't help, things because you're playing football. When you have continuous soft tissue injuries, that reflects on you as a player to some degree. And maybe you just have a body that's not built to withstand this. Maybe you're not doing the right things too.
Got Eloy body. Yeah.
And look, maybe you can just have bad luck, but other times there's a lot of examples. I'm not saying this is Kyler Gordon, but there's examples of guys who are just not putting in the work to keep themselves healthy.
Like Grady Jarrett, he's putting in the work.
Oh, yeah.
He had a rare situation happen in his career. That's what I mean. So that's why I wonder if there's something more to this.
And when you hear the frustration like that, you can kind of read between the lines and see what do the coaches really feel about this guy.
I think I just saw Neil and Anton from WBBM Traffic. They're looking for you. They want you down there, so I think we got to let you go.
Yeah,
we
got to give you away.
Yeah, there's Lisa. Yep.